So initially, you started drug dealing, and you started with weed, and it moved up to heroin.
I was more of a cocaine dealer, but yeah, the heroin because of Angela Ruggiero and at the time DiGiorgio was a relative of Vicky Gotti Sr., John Gotti Sr.'s wife, and John Gotti asked, Angela asked me to start moving heroin on a small level compared to those guys, but yeah, I got into the heroin business.
Okay, and were you affiliated with the Gambinos at this point once you started drug dealing?
Oh yeah, yeah, I was always affiliated since I'm a kid, yeah.
Okay, and well, originally, Carlo Gambino started the Gambino crime family. He died of old age,
Correct.
passed away at his house, I believe. And Paul Castellano, I'm probably
Castellano,
mispronouncing.
Paul Castellano.
Castellano, sorry. So Paul Castellano, aka Big Paul, he took over as the boss, and he was known as the Howard Hughes of the mob.
Correct.
Why that name?
Because he was a big money maker. He was Carlo's brother-in-law, and a lot of people were against him becoming the boss because he wasn't a street guy, you know, per se. He was a money maker, not with his own by his own hand, a tough guy, old school guy like Neil Della Croce, who was the underboss. And a lot of people bucked it. Me personally, over history, I thought it was a good decision. Money brings power, and I think Paul brought a lot of power to the Gambino family because of the money.
Did you have a relationship with him at all?
No, I mean, I knew him, but I didn't have a relationship. I was too young. I was just coming up when he became the boss, and so I was a kid still. You know, back then there was more structure, I think, in the mob than there is today. It was more you go to your guy, who your guy is, Andy. If I had to say anything past hello, if I saw Paul or Neil, that's all I get. I mean, you don't disrespect anybody, especially at that young age. You're intimidated to even try to go to them. But I knew better. I was raised around the mob, so I knew if I had to say anything or even wish them something, if somebody was born in their family or a wedding, you still ask your guy, which would be Fat Andy, can I step up to him and say congratulations? And you have to get your permission first. I mean, some of that structure and some of the rules have changed over the years, and I said this is what weakens the mob, in my opinion.
Okay, so now you're affiliated with the Gambino crime family, but you're not actually a made man.
No, I can't be. I'm Albanian.
Right. But you start with the drug dealing, and at one point you build up to about $1 million a month.
Correct. Probably more. I mean, that's a conservative number. And, you know, I got guys that work for me like Stevie Newell, I shot, and later on he was around with the Gottis and during some of this nonsense that went on. And he says that I'm being too conservative with that number. And this is a guy that worked for me. He said, I think at the time, he was one of my lower level guys, and he was making $15,000, $20,000 a month. So I think that number is conservative for what we were doing. But for sure, $1 million.
Okay. But $1 million, that's just the gross. How much were you bringing in a month in terms of profit?
No, that's not the gross. I'm talking about
that's
profit, yeah.
So, okay.
And I
so
think
you're doing multi-millions per month in gross.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I got guys around me. I have, I don't know how many guys around me, but I got a good 25, 30 guys that are around me on a regular basis. And these guys have guys around them who have guys around them. So, you know, it's very hard to put a real number on what all these guys are making. But, you know, we're running a major organization, not just for myself, but for the, you know, Gambino family.
Okay. Now, originally when you're getting involved with the Gambinos, John Gotti Sr. is still alive. But your relationship was more with John Gotti Jr. because you guys are more the same age.
Well, not really. I mean, my day-to-day is to, you know, we're all given guys. And the father would give me and Bobby Borriello at the time to John Gotti Jr. So he's got to justify, you know, you're trying to justify certain guys in the life as tough guys, as money makers, and you got to give them a crew to have around them. So, yeah, I was around staying with John Gotti Jr. more as a protection thing for him, justify him as a street guy, and at the same time, I'm answering to John Gotti Sr. and his brothers as far as what they would say is I'm directly with the regime, meaning with the Gotti crew itself.
So at one point, Big Paul and his bodyguard gets shot to death outside of Sparks Steakhouse, which they say the order came from John Gotti.
Well, Tommy Bellotti is the right-hand man to Paul Castellano, also his driver, who was one of the guys that at the time would be up for position to take over if something happened to Paul. So he was kind of he was going to have to go if Paul was going to have to go. If there was going to be a move against Paul, Tommy had to go also, because Tommy would have retributed what was planned against Paul. So, but John was one of the guys that obviously masterminded it to put himself in a position as boss. Yes.
Who was the shooter? Was that ever
Yeah, that's
known?
yeah, that's there's several guys there at the scene. Johnny Cornelia's name's been popped up through different guys' conversations. Sammy Gravano, obviously on the scene, said that Johnny was one of the main shooters. And from what I understood, a couple of guys that were there, one of the guns jammed, and Johnny did the shooting on both Tommy and Paul. He killed both of them. There was other guys at the scene. Tony Roach, Tony Rampino was one of the guys there. Eddie Lino. So most of the guys that were the close interfaction of the Gottis were on the scene at that time during the shooting.
Okay, so it wasn't just one hitman. It was a whole crew of guys came in and took him out.
Yeah, listen, he wasn't leaving that area alive. Oh, these guys knew they were going to get killed. So no matter what happened, whether the police happened up on him, that was going to end that night right there on that street corner in front of Sparks.